Start acting like the person you want to become. Start moving like your future self is watching. Written and published by Audiobook Mindset. Introduction. What if I told you that the version of you that you dream of becoming isn't far away? It's just waiting for you to show up. What if the strongest, most confident, most fulfilled version of you is watching everything you do, silently, patiently, hoping that you will finally wake up and start behaving like they already exist? Because the truth is, they do. That future version of you isn't a fantasy. They are the result of the decisions you make right now. And every time you choose doubt over courage, comfort over growth, procrastination over discipline, you drift further away from them. But today, something changes. Today, you start walking, speaking, thinking, and moving like your future self is watching, because they are, and they're waiting for you to catch up. Chapter 1. You become what you practice in private. Transformation never announces itself with fireworks. It does not arrive with applause, cameras, or motivational background music. It begins in silence. It begins in the invisible hours, when no one is looking, when no one is clapping, and when no one even knows what you're working on. The person you want to become is not created on stage or under a spotlight. They are born and shaped behind the scenes, when the world is asleep and you are left alone with your choices. This is where your identity is sculpted, not with the strokes of grand public gestures, but with the small, repeated movements of daily discipline and self-awareness. It is in the quiet rooms of your life, the early mornings and late nights, the skipped temptations and hard decisions, that you meet the version of yourself you are becoming. And it is there, in the stillness of your private actions, that greatness begins to take root. Most people live as though growth requires permission, as if they must wait to be seen, validated, or rewarded before they start becoming who they truly wish to be. But growth doesn't work like that. It doesn't respond to applause, it responds to repetition. You are always becoming something, and every small decision you make is shaping your future identity, whether you realize it or not. The reality is that your habits are a mirror of your future, and the person you will become is the direct result of what you consistently do when no one is watching. If you wait until the world tells you to get serious, you'll be too late. The future you, the disciplined, successful, courageous, and clear-minded version of you, is not created out of motivation or chance. It is created out of a series of quiet, private practices that eventually become your natural way of living. If you want to become confident, you don't wait for a stage or an audience. You begin by speaking with strength when you are alone. You catch the self-doubt in your inner voice and replace it with encouragement. You rehearse standing tall, looking yourself in the mirror, and declaring what you believe about who you are and where you are going. You practice certainty, even if no one hears it but you. If you want to become disciplined, you don't wait for a boss or deadline to force you into action. You practice saying no to things that take you away from your purpose, even when there's no one there to praise your restraint. You shut off the distractions when no one is monitoring you. You choose the harder right over the easier wrong simply because you know who you are trying to become, and that vision is stronger than your excuses. If you want to become successful, you stop relying on external motivation. You get out of bed not because someone told you to, but because you know the future you is counting on your effort. You start showing up with purpose, not because your schedule demands it, but because your future self deserves it. You do the boring things, the tedious things, the things no one celebrates, because you understand that this is the foundation. You begin to treat every private moment as sacred, because you know that those are the moments that determine everything else. Public victories are earned in private battles, and if you skip the training, you forfeit the transformation. The biggest mistake people make is assuming that growth comes from sudden change. But the truth is, growth is subtle, it's quiet. It's formed in the tiny, repetitive choices you make every single day. And the tragedy is that these choices feel so small in the moment that we convince ourselves they don't matter. But they do. They matter more than anything, because what you do in private builds the framework of your character, and your character becomes your destiny. Over time, these private habits become your automatic responses, and those responses shape the trajectory of your entire life. Whether it's the decision to speak with kindness when you're angry, to keep your promises to yourself when it's inconvenient, or to show up to your goals even when you're exhausted, these actions, performed in solitude, carve out the architecture of who you are becoming. There is a deep and powerful truth that most people never face. Everything you repeat, you become. The person who repeatedly procrastinates becomes someone who is always late to their own destiny. The person who constantly seeks comfort becomes someone who is unfamiliar with growth. But the person who repeats action, courage, and discipline day after day without applause becomes unstoppable. They don't need to convince the world of their value. They become someone who radiates it. That kind of power is not given. It is earned in silence. So ask yourself, what are you practicing right now when no one is watching? Are you reinforcing fear or building courage? Are you repeating distraction or strengthening discipline? Are you reinforcing self-doubt or cultivating confidence? These are not neutral habits. Each one is a brick, and brick by brick, you are constructing your future identity. The future you, the one who commands respect, radiates peace, lives with intention, and walks with purpose, doesn't appear overnight. They emerge slowly through thousands of small, invisible decisions made in the dark. They are formed when you choose growth over comfort, truth over ego, and commitment over feelings. And yes, in the beginning, it will feel awkward. It will feel like you're pretending. That's because you are not yet used to being that version of yourself. But that's how change works. It always feels unnatural before it becomes second nature. Every single act of discipline is a signal to your brain that says, "This is who I am now." And the more you repeat it, the more believable it becomes. Eventually, you'll no longer be faking it. You will have become it. You don't need the world to believe in you. You need to believe in your patterns. Because belief is born in consistency. When you start showing up for yourself in private, something begins to shift. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop seeking approval. You stop needing someone to tell you that you're doing great. Why? Because you'll feel it. Deep in your soul, you'll know you are becoming someone who is no longer chasing potential, but embodying it. Not someday, not later, but now. So let today be the day you stop treating your private life like it doesn't matter. Start guarding it. Start shaping it. Start using it as the sacred space where your future self is being built. Because one day, people will ask you how you became so confident, so focused, so disciplined, so alive. And you'll smile because you'll remember all the hours no one saw. You'll remember that who you are in public was earned by who you chose to be in private. And that's a kind of success no one can take from you. Chapter 2. Walk like your dreams are already real. There is a certain kind of presence that turns heads, not because of appearance, not because of status, but because of energy. You've seen it before. Someone walks into a room, and without saying a single word, people notice. They move like they belong. They carry themselves like they have already become something solid, grounded, unshakable. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. This is what it looks like when a person begins to walk like their dreams are already real. Most people wait until they have evidence before they move with confidence. They wait until the dream manifests, until the bank account grows, until the applause comes, until someone gives them permission. But if you keep waiting for your dream to be real before you act like it is, you will never get there. Because success doesn't show up first. You do. Confidence doesn't arrive at the finish line. It is what carries you through every step of the journey. And the path to becoming who you are meant to be starts not with luck or timing, but with posture, physical, mental, and emotional. Your body tells a story long before your words do. The way you walk, the way you sit, the way you move through the world is a reflection of how you feel about yourself and what you believe is possible. Are your shoulders slouched or strong? Do your eyes look down at the ground or meet the world directly? Do your steps shuffle with hesitation or land with purpose? These subtle movements send signals, not just to others, but to your own brain, and those signals shape your identity. When you move like your future self is already living inside you, your nervous system begins to rewire. It starts to believe you are already there. This is not about pretending. This is about practicing. Every great performer, athlete, or leader knows this. They train not just the skill, but the presence. They walk onto the stage, into the ring, into the meeting room as if the victory is already theirs. Not because they're faking it, but because they've aligned their posture with their vision. They've stepped into their future before it physically arrives. So how would you walk if you were already living your dream? How would you carry yourself if the version of you who has already made it was guiding your steps today? Would you drag your feet through the day or move like every moment matters? Would you hide your presence or enter spaces like your contribution has weight and value? When you start embodying the energy of your future self, everything begins to shift. You don't wait to be chosen. You show up as if you already are. You don't chase opportunity. You attract it because your presence speaks before you do. Start by changing how you show up in the most ordinary moments. When you're walking to the grocery store, hold your head high. When you're sitting in traffic, shift your posture. When you're standing in line, stay aware of your energy. These may seem like small, meaningless choices, but they are powerful cues to your brain and your body. They reinforce that you are becoming someone who moves with purpose, who expects great things, who already feels aligned with the future they're building. The most successful people don't wait until they've made it to behave like it. They act like it now, and the world eventually catches up. And yes, at first, it might feel like a performance. You may feel silly walking with confidence when you're not where you want to be yet. You may question whether you're just pretending. But here's the truth. Every version of you that exists in the future is built through action in the present. The body learns by doing. If you want to feel confident, move like someone who is. If you want to feel successful, carry yourself like someone who already has discipline and direction. This is not delusion, it's alignment. You are not faking who you are. You are aligning with who you are becoming. Too often, people wait until something changes around them to finally give themselves permission to change what's within. But that's backwards. The outer world will always follow the inner world. When you shift your energy, your mindset, your movement, your environment will respond. People will notice something different about you, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. Not because you're showing off, but because you're showing up. You'll begin to radiate certainty, not because you've figured everything out, but because you've stopped hesitating and started embodying the person you're meant to be. Your body is a vehicle for your vision. The way you carry yourself either supports your goals or contradicts them. Every time you walk like your future self, you're building the bridge between today and tomorrow. You are conditioning your mind and muscles to move with intention. You are training your brain to believe, not just dream. And over time, those subtle shifts accumulate into transformation. Your walk becomes more than just a way to move. It becomes a message that says, I know who I am becoming, and I am on the way there, step by step, breath by breath. Think of it this way. Every step you take is a vote for the person you are choosing to become. When you walk with fear, doubt, or hesitation, you are casting votes for the version of you that stays small, stuck, and invisible. But when you walk with strength, presence, and purpose, you are casting votes for the version of you that rises, leads, and lives fully. And eventually, the votes add up. The future you becomes the current you. Not because something magical happened, but because you walked your way into it, literally. There is no finish line to becoming. There is only the next moment, the next movement, the next choice. So wherever you are today, whatever your circumstances look like, you have the power to carry yourself like someone who belongs to the future. Don't wait for external success to validate your internal worth. Bring the energy of success into your posture. Bring the courage of your dreams into your steps. Walk with dignity. Walk with direction. Walk like your future self is watching, because in many ways they are. They are not far away. They are being built with every step you take. And the moment you decide to move with intention, the gap between who you are and who you want to be begins to close. Chapter 3. Speak to yourself like a leader in training. The voice that speaks to you the most is not your parents, not your friends, not even your mentors. It is the voice inside your own head. That voice is with you every moment of every day, narrating your choices, judging your actions, and shaping your belief about what you are capable of. And here's the truth. No amount of external praise or encouragement can override a negative, self-destructive inner voice. If you want to become the person you dream of being, you must first learn to speak to yourself like a leader in training, not like an enemy, not like a critic, but like someone who believes in your potential even when you cannot see it yourself. Most people underestimate how much power their inner dialogue has over their life. We often think confidence or success comes from external accomplishments, hitting a goal, landing the job, earning the recognition. But in reality, those things are byproducts of the way we talk to ourselves long before they happen. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not good enough," "I can't do this," or "what if I fail?" then your mind begins to accept those words as truth. It doesn't matter how talented or capable you are. If your inner voice is filled with doubt, your actions will always shrink to match that belief. On the other hand, when you intentionally speak to yourself with encouragement, strength, and clarity, you begin to rewire your mind for success. Your thoughts stop being barriers and start becoming bridges. Think of the people who inspire you most, the leaders, the athletes, the creators, the visionaries. Do you think they have never had doubts? Of course they have. But the difference is in how they respond to those doubts. Instead of letting negative thoughts dictate their actions, they take control of their inner dialogue. They train their mind like a coach trains an athlete. They say things like, "Yes, this is hard, but I can handle hard things," or "This fear is a sign that I am growing," or "I've failed before, but I always get back up." They don't wait for motivation to magically appear. They create it through the words they speak to themselves. You need to start treating yourself the same way. When you stumble, don't use words that tear you down. Instead, use words that build you back up. Instead of saying, "I'm so stupid for making this mistake," say, "This is part of the process. I'm learning. I will get better." When you're tired and tempted to quit, don't tell yourself, "I can't do this anymore." Tell yourself, "I've come too far to stop now. I'll take one more step and then another." When you're afraid of failure, don't repeat the lie that failure defines you. Say, "Failure is not the end of my story. It's just a chapter that will make the ending even better." You don't have to have all the answers to speak to yourself like a leader. Leadership is not about pretending you are fearless. It's about choosing courage in the moments when fear is loudest. It's about guiding yourself with steady, encouraging words when everything around you feels uncertain. Think of it like this. If you were coaching someone you deeply cared about, would you speak to them the way you speak to yourself? Would you criticize them as harshly? Would you constantly tell them they aren't enough? Probably not. You would uplift them. You would remind them of their strengths. You would encourage them to keep moving forward. So why not offer that same compassion to yourself? Your future self needs you to be that kind of leader today. Every time you choose to replace self-criticism with self-coaching, you take a step closer to becoming the person you were meant to be. Every time you choose empowering words instead of destructive ones, you build confidence that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. Words are not just sounds. They are instructions to your brain. They shape your mood, your energy, your actions, and your results. When you speak to yourself with power, you begin to feel powerful. When you speak with belief, your actions rise to match that belief. But speaking to yourself like a leader is not just about positive affirmations. It's also about honesty. A leader doesn't lie to their team, and you shouldn't lie to yourself either. If you know you're procrastinating, don't sugarcoat it. Say to yourself, I know I'm avoiding this, but I'm better than this. I'm capable of more, and I'm going to prove it. If you've been letting fear control your choices, admit it. Yes, I'm afraid, but fear will not stop me anymore. I can take action even with fear in my heart. This combination of truth and encouragement is what separates leaders from followers. Leaders acknowledge reality, but they don't stay trapped in it. They use words to create the energy they need to move forward. Imagine the kind of person you want to become in 5 years, the confident, disciplined, fearless version of you. How would that person speak to themselves? Would they fill their mind with complaints and excuses, or would they use language that fuels progress? Start borrowing their voice today. Speak the way your future self would speak. Replace "I can't" with "I will figure it out." Replace "I'm not ready" with "I'm preparing every single day." Replace "What if I fail" with "What if I succeed beyond what I can imagine?" Your inner dialogue is like a garden. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and self-loathing, that is exactly what will grow. But if you plant seeds of courage, belief, and determination, your mind will start producing thoughts that push you forward instead of pulling you back. Every word you speak to yourself is either feeding your growth or starving it. So speak with care, speak with purpose. Speak like someone who knows that their voice matters, because it does. In time, as you keep practicing this new way of talking to yourself, something incredible will happen. Your inner voice will stop being a critic and start being a guide. You will naturally begin to encourage yourself instead of tearing yourself down. And when challenges arise, as they always do, you will handle them differently. You will not panic, because your inner voice will remind you of your strength. You will not give up easily, because your inner voice will push you to keep going. You will start to lead yourself, and when you can lead yourself, nothing can stop you from leading your life. So start today. Every time you catch yourself speaking negatively, pause and choose better words. Speak to yourself as though you are training for greatness, because you are. And one day, when you look back, you'll see that the person you became was built not just by your actions, but by the words you whispered to yourself when no one else was listening. Chapter 4. Dress like you respect your own potential. There is a silent language we all speak, whether we realize it or not. It's not the words we use. It's not the way we write, or even the way we act in public. It's the way we show up, visibly, physically, consistently. And one of the most overlooked but powerful forms of this language is how we dress. How we present ourselves to the world isn't just about style or fashion. It's about self-respect. It's about the message we send to ourselves every time we look in the mirror and the energy we radiate to the world around us. When you dress like you respect your potential, you begin to step into the mindset of someone who is becoming, someone who values where they're headed, even if they aren't fully there yet. Let's be very clear. This isn't about impressing people. It's not about labels, trends, or keeping up with appearances. It's about alignment. When the outside starts to reflect the seriousness and clarity of what's happening on the inside, a shift occurs. You start treating your time, your goals, your boundaries, and your future with more intention. Dressing with respect isn't about vanity, it's about vision. You don't dress for the comfort of now, you dress for the weight of the life you are building. And when your clothes, posture, and grooming begin to echo the mindset you're developing, your body becomes an anchor for your future identity. When you look in the mirror and see someone who's prepared, who's composed, who's intentional, you begin to act like that person. It becomes harder to scroll your day away when you're dressed like you mean business. It becomes harder to settle for mediocrity when you look like someone who doesn't settle. And this doesn't require a fortune. It doesn't mean designer shoes or luxury watches. Respect isn't in the price tag. It's in the care, the cleanliness, the structure, the choice. It's in saying, I may not have everything I want yet, but I can still show up like someone who's worthy of it. Think of it like this. Would your future self, the version of you who has achieved the goals you're working toward, show up to an important opportunity looking disheveled, unprepared, or careless? Would they go to an interview, a meeting, or a life-changing moment looking like they just rolled out of bed? Of course not. So why are you waiting for some future milestone to start dressing with that level of respect now? If you truly believe that you're on the path to becoming someone powerful, someone valuable, someone focused, then that belief should be reflected in how you carry yourself today. Your clothes are not just fabric, they are a signal. To your brain, they say, this moment matters. To the world, they say, I take myself seriously. And to your future, they say, I am already preparing to meet you. When you get dressed with intention, you change your energy. You walk differently. You speak differently. You focus more sharply. You carry yourself with a higher standard. Not because you're pretending to be someone you're not, but because you're aligning with who you are becoming. And it's not just about formal wear or dressing up. It's about dressing with purpose. That can mean clean, well-fitted clothes even on your rest days. It can mean wearing what makes you feel grounded, strong, and awake. It's not about putting on a mask. It's about putting on your armor. It's about preparing yourself for the day mentally and emotionally by physically showing up for it. Because every morning when you choose your clothes, you're not just choosing an outfit, you're choosing a level of readiness. There's something sacred about ritual, and getting dressed with care is one of the most underestimated daily rituals we have. When you brush your hair with intention, when you put on your clothes like you're stepping into something meaningful, you're telling yourself, I matter, my goals matter, my presence matters, and that belief becomes hard to ignore, even when motivation is low or doubt starts to creep in. You're no longer waiting for something to change your life. You're dressing like it's already begun. Now, some will argue that appearance doesn't matter, that it's what's on the inside that counts. And while that's partially true, it misses a deeper point. What's on the outside often reflects how much care and discipline exists on the inside. If you respect your mind, you feed it with knowledge. If you respect your body, you fuel it and train it. And if you respect your life, you will reflect that respect in how you present yourself to the world. The external becomes a mirror of your internal priorities. You don't need to prove anything to others, but you do need to prove to yourself that you're not taking this life casually. Because let's be honest, when you dress like you're indifferent, you act like you're indifferent. You move through the day passively. You make lazier decisions. But when you step into your clothes like they mean something, you step into the day like you mean something. And that energy compounds. It becomes a pattern, and those patterns become your new baseline. Eventually, you'll look back and realize that dressing with respect was one of the first steps you took in reprogramming how you think, act, and move through life. Let this be a turning point. Open your closet and ask yourself, is this the wardrobe of someone who's preparing to rise? Is this how my future self would dress? If not, make the shift. You don't need an entirely new wardrobe. You need a new mindset about how you show up. Keep it simple. Keep it clean. Keep it sharp. Don't dress for comfort. dress for clarity, dress like your actions matter, dress like your time is valuable, dress like your goals are real, even if you're the only one who sees them right now. Because one day, you'll be walking into rooms you used to only dream about. And when that day comes, you'll be glad you spent years dressing like you belonged there, because you always did. Chapter 5. Surround yourself with mirrors, not echoes. The people you keep around you, whether close friends, casual company, or even digital voices online, are either helping you evolve into your future self or keeping you cemented in your old patterns. There is no in-between. Every conversation, every influence, every energy that enters your environment is leaving a fingerprint on your mindset. That's why you must be brutally honest and deeply intentional about your circle. If you are truly committed to becoming a stronger, wiser, more powerful version of yourself, then you cannot afford to be surrounded by voices that only echo who you were. You need mirrors, not cheerleaders for your comfort zone, but reflections of your growth. Not people who applaud your stagnation, but people who challenge your potential. Most people live inside an invisible bubble of affirmation. They unconsciously choose to keep relationships that feel familiar, easy, and non-confrontational. They gravitate toward people who tell them exactly what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And at first, this feels comforting, safe even. But it's a trap, because growth never happens in an echo chamber. When everyone around you thinks like you, speaks like you, and avoids challenging you, you stop evolving. Your mind gets lazy, your standards get lower, your potential slowly goes to sleep. Echoes are easy to find. They're the people who will nod at every excuse you make. They're the ones who won't call you out when you start slipping, who will smile politely while you shrink yourself, who will quietly watch you sabotage your future because it keeps them comfortable too. Echoes exist in environments where no one wants to rise too far ahead, because rising means someone has to be left behind. So everyone stays small together. Everyone stays stuck, applauding each other's comfort instead of pushing each other toward clarity. But mirrors, they are different. Mirrors reflect what's real, not what's convenient. They are not always comfortable to be around, but they are necessary. A mirror shows you your blind spots. A mirror holds up the truth, even when it stings. A mirror doesn't flatter you, it sharpens you. These are the people who say, "I know you're better than this," when you start to lower your standards. These are the voices that challenge you to finish what you start, to rise when you're falling, to face the truth you've been avoiding. Mirrors are rare because honesty is rare. And honesty without love is cruelty, but honesty with love, that is transformation. Surrounding yourself with mirrors means you intentionally seek out people, content, mentors, and environments that reflect your higher self, not your lower habits. It means spending time with people who make you slightly uncomfortable, not because they belittle you, but because they challenge you to stretch. If you are the most disciplined, most focused, most driven person in your circle, then you are not in a circle, you are in a cage. True growth comes when you are around people who raise the bar, not lower it. People whose very presence makes you question if you've been playing too small, aiming too low, or coasting too much. This doesn't mean you cut off everyone who isn't growing. It means you begin to protect your energy with precision. You start observing who drains your purpose and who fuels it. You start choosing depth over history, alignment over loyalty to the past. Just because someone has known you for a long time does not mean they are good for your future. Familiarity is not the same as fit. And growth sometimes requires you to walk away from old circles to find the ones that reflect your becoming, not your beginning. Mirrors can also come in the form of books, mentors you've never met, podcasts, or videos from leaders who challenge your perspective. If you can't find a mirror in your immediate environment, create one through what you consume. Fill your space with voices that hold you to a higher standard. Listen to people who have walked the path you're trying to build. Study those who live with clarity, excellence, and conviction. The more you expose yourself to better reflections, the clearer your self-image becomes. And when your self-image rises, your decisions follow. One of the most important things you can do on your journey to becoming your future self is to take an inventory of your circle. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with, whether physically or digitally, and ask yourself, are these people helping me rise, or are they anchoring me down? Do they challenge my excuses, or enable them? Do they push me to grow, or let me hide? Be honest, because every relationship is either building your future or blocking it. There are no neutral companions on the path to transformation. Choosing mirrors over echoes is not about elitism or judgment. It's about alignment. It's about making a commitment to the version of you that you want to become and refusing to tolerate relationships that are silently pulling you backward. It's about loving yourself enough to walk away from comfort and walk toward clarity, even when it's lonely at first. Because in time, you'll begin to attract the right people. The ones who see your future even when you're struggling in the present, who speak truth with love, who reflect your greatness back to you when you've forgotten it yourself. And something beautiful happens when you are surrounded by mirrors. You become sharper, more focused. You start elevating your standards naturally. You stop wasting time on low-level distractions. You begin to internalize a new identity, one that is rooted in truth, purpose, and forward momentum. Your environment starts feeding your evolution, not your stagnation, and that's when you become unstoppable. Never underestimate the power of the people around you. They are either reflecting your future or reinforcing your past. Choose wisely, because the people you walk with will either sharpen your edge or dull your soul. Chapter 6. Move even when you're not motivated. Motivation is a beautiful feeling when it arrives. It makes the world feel light. It lifts you up, energizes you, fills your chest with the illusion that everything is possible, and for a brief moment, it is. You feel like you can take on the world, build anything, become anyone. But here's the hard truth. Motivation is not loyal. It doesn't show up on schedule. It doesn't knock politely when you need it. It comes and goes like the wind, unreliable, unpredictable, and often absent in the moments you need it the most. If your entire plan to grow, to succeed, to become your future self depends on feeling motivated, then your plan is already broken. The people who actually change their lives, who break free from old patterns, who achieve greatness not once, but consistently, do not rely on motivation. They have trained themselves to move anyway. They have learned to act despite how they feel. They understand that success is not built on moods, but on motion. Discipline becomes their engine, and decisions become their fuel. Even on the days they don't feel like it, especially on those days, they show up. Not because it's easy, but because they've decided that becoming their future self is more important than being comfortable in the present. The truth is, you won't always want to move. There will be days where your bed feels heavier than your ambition, days where the work feels pointless, the effort seems invisible, and progress feels like a myth. Your mind will offer you 1,000 reasons to stop, to rest, to give up. And in those moments, if you wait for motivation to rescue you, you'll stay stuck. You'll watch hours turn into days, and days into months, and months into years, all while telling yourself, I'm just waiting to feel ready. But readiness isn't a feeling. Readiness is a choice. You don't become disciplined by waiting for the perfect mood. You become disciplined by building the muscle of doing hard things, even when they feel inconvenient. The hardest part of any task is starting. The first 10 minutes of movement feel like a wall, a weight, a resistance. But once you begin, something shifts. Your body wakes up. Your mind stops negotiating. Your heart catches up. And the energy you thought you didn't have reveals itself, because it was never gone. It was just locked behind your unwillingness to begin. Motion unlocks motivation, action creates clarity, and momentum builds identity. You don't become a writer by thinking about writing. You write, even on the days your words feel clumsy. You don't become strong by thinking about the gym. You go, even on the days your muscles ache. You don't build a powerful life by hoping for the right conditions. You build it by moving forward through the resistance. Movement is the spark that ignites your transformation, not the reward that follows it. And let's be honest, most of the things that truly matter in life won't feel good at first. Growth is uncomfortable, discipline is boring, consistency is exhausting, but they are necessary. And when you learn to keep moving regardless of how you feel, you begin to build trust with yourself. You stop being the person who says, "I'll try," and start becoming the person who says, "I do." You become someone who follows through, not because every day is easy, but because your commitment is bigger than your emotions. Think of your future self, the one who is clear, calm, powerful, respected, and grounded. That person is not waiting for bursts of motivation to take action. That person has systems, not excuses. They act from identity, not inspiration. They've trained themselves to move no matter what, and every step they've taken, especially on the days they felt like quitting, became a deposit into the bank of self-respect. And that's what this really comes down to, self-respect. Every time you move without motivation, you are proving to yourself that your word means something. You are saying, "I do what I say I'll do, even when no one is watching, even when I'm tired, even when I don't feel like it." And that self-respect starts to bleed into everything. You walk taller. You speak with more conviction. You begin to believe in your own power, not because someone told you to, but because you've seen what you're capable of in the silence, in the struggle, in the unseen. This is where the difference is made, not on the days when everything is aligned and easy, but on the days when your excuses are loud, your energy is low, and your fears are whispering, "Just skip it today." If you can win those days, you can win anything. If you can move when it's hardest, you become the kind of person who can handle any challenge, any setback, any storm, because you've stopped being ruled by how you feel and started being led by what you value. And yes, there will be times when rest is necessary, times when burnout is real and recovery is wise. But rest is not the same as avoidance. There's a difference between intentional rest and habitual escape. Only you can know the difference. But the key is this: don't let one skipped day become two. Don't let a pause become your pattern. Take the break, but then return to the movement, because your future depends on it. Start small, one action, one task, one choice to move without needing to feel inspired, and then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Stack those days until they become your identity. Until people ask, "How do you stay so consistent?" And you smile, because you know the secret. You stopped waiting to feel ready, and you started moving like your life depended on it, because it does. You are not your moods. You are not your fatigue. You are not your doubt. You are your discipline. You are your choices. You are the sum of your repeated actions. And when you learn to move, even when you don't feel like it, you are no longer just someone who wants a better life. You are someone who is building one, step by step, decision by decision, in silence, in discomfort, and in power. Keep moving, even when it's slow, even when it's heavy, even when it's silent, because your future self is not hoping for perfection. They are praying that you don't stop. Chapter 7. Decide you're already becoming that person today. There is a moment in every person's journey where the path forward no longer depends on resources, conditions, or external validation. It depends on one thing: a decision. A quiet, inward, unshakable decision that says, "I am done waiting for the right moment. I am done pretending I am not ready. I am done living like the person I used to be. From this moment on, I choose to become the person I was born to be. Not someday. Not when everything feels aligned. Not when someone gives me permission. but now, today. Because the truth is, the future version of you that you keep imagining, the one who is disciplined, focused, courageous, respected, and fully alive, is not a fantasy. That version of you is not hidden in the distance. They are already inside you. They are not waiting to be discovered. They are waiting to be decided into existence. And that process begins the moment you stop asking if you can become them and start declaring that you already are. We spend so much of our lives trapped in the illusion of one day. One day, I'll be confident. One day, I'll be consistent. One day, I'll speak up, take action, start the business, get in shape, change my habits. We carry this invisible checklist, believing that once the stars align, once the fear goes away, once we feel fully prepared, then we'll finally give ourselves permission to become the person we want to be. But that day never comes, because the stars never fully align. Fear never disappears completely, and no one is coming to tap you on the shoulder and say, "It's time now." That power is already in your hands. The permission you've been waiting for is a decision you were always capable of making, and it begins with one thought: I am already becoming. Not just wishing, not just hoping, not just planning, but becoming. Right now, through every small act of alignment between your choices and your vision. You don't need to feel like that person in order to start living like them. You need to act your way into belief. This is the foundation of real transformation. Confidence doesn't precede action. It follows it. Discipline doesn't wait for comfort. It creates its own structure. Courage doesn't arise from the absence of fear. It rises from your willingness to move despite it. You don't wake up one day and suddenly feel ready to become your future self. You decide to start living like them, even before it feels natural. And the more you do, the more your mind, body, and identity begin to catch up. It might feel fake at first. That's okay. Growth always feels like pretending in the beginning. When a child puts on their parents' shoes, they stumble, not because they're pretending, but because they're growing into something bigger. That's what you're doing now. You are stepping into the shoes of your future. And yes, it will feel awkward. Yes, you'll doubt yourself. But that discomfort is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're evolving. You are not required to make a massive leap overnight. You are only required to make a decision and follow it with aligned action again and again until that new version of you becomes real, familiar, and permanent. One choice to show up with focus. One choice to speak your truth. One choice to say no to what no longer fits. One choice to say yes to what grows you. One meal, one workout, one morning routine, one courageous conversation, one boundary. These choices are the bricks that build the bridge from where you are to where you are destined to be. Your life is not changed in a single explosion of transformation. It's changed in thousands of small moments where you silently choose to show up differently. Moments where no one is cheering, no one is validating you, and no one is watching, but you still act in alignment with your future self. That is where the shift happens. That is where the old identity begins to fade, and the new one starts to take form, not in the spotlight, but in the shadow of your quiet decisions. And here's something powerful. The moment you decide you are already becoming that person, you begin to reject everything that contradicts that identity. You stop entertaining distractions that drain your energy. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop accepting treatment from others that your future self would never tolerate. You begin to move with a new standard, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You know who you are now. You're no longer confused. You're no longer apologizing for outgrowing the version of you that once played small. You're done rehearsing your potential. You're here to embody it. But this decision must be remade every day. It's not a one-time declaration. It's a daily discipline. Every morning you wake up, you must choose to walk in alignment with your higher self. That means you no longer react like the person you used to be. You pause. You reflect. You respond like the person you're becoming. You show up to your commitments, not because they're easy, but because your identity demands consistency. You shift from, "I hope this works," to, "I will make this work." From, "I'll try," to, "I am doing." From, "maybe one day," to, "this is who I am now." You stop measuring progress by how far you have left to go, and you start celebrating the fact that you're on the path at all. Every aligned action, no matter how small, is proof that you've already begun. And eventually, those tiny choices create massive shifts. Your voice gets stronger, your posture gets taller, your standards get higher, your vision becomes sharper. You begin to lead yourself, trust yourself, respect yourself. Not because the world gave you permission, but because you finally gave it to yourself. So don't wait. Don't wait for clarity. Don't wait for applause. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait until you have more time, more confidence, more experience. Start now. Start where you are, with what you have, and trust that the person you're becoming is already within reach. Not because they're a fantasy, but because they are simply you, without the fear, without the hesitation, and without the excuses. You don't become that person someday. You become them the moment you decide to. Chapter 8. Start moving like your future self is watching. Imagine for a moment that the most evolved version of you, the one who has already built the life you dream of, who has already mastered self-control, who speaks with clarity, walks with peace, and lives with discipline, is watching every step you take right now. Not judging, not criticizing, but observing, waiting, studying your choices, noticing how you react when things get difficult, watching how you speak to yourself when you're alone, listening closely to your tone, your decisions, your habits, and the way you carry yourself through the ordinary, seemingly unimportant moments of your day. Now ask yourself, if that future self were watching, would you move differently? Because the truth is, they are, not in a mystical, abstract sense, but in a very real, grounded way. Every action you take today echoes into that future. Every choice you make becomes part of the architecture of your future life. Whether you realize it or not, the future version of you is being built right now. Not tomorrow, not someday, not when you finally feel ready, but in the small, often invisible decisions you're making moment by moment. You are being watched, not by the world, but by your own potential, and your actions are either closing the distance between who you are and who you could become, or stretching it further away. This is why movement matters. Not just motion for the sake of being busy, but intentional, aligned movement, the kind that mirrors who you are becoming. Most people wait for their circumstances to change before they start acting differently. They think, once I get the job, then I'll act professional. Once I lose the weight, then I'll feel confident. Once I find clarity, then I'll move forward. But that is the lie that keeps people stuck in cycles. Life doesn't work that way. Change doesn't wait for comfort. The shift begins when you act as if you are already there. When you move like your future self is watching, you begin to rise above the temporary emotions that used to control you. You start making decisions based not on how you feel, but on who you are becoming. You stop reaching for distractions that numb your progress. You stop giving in to laziness disguised as self-care. You begin to realize that the version of you respect the most isn't just an idea, it's a standard. And standards aren't something you wait to reach. They're something you decide to live by. Consider this. Would your future self hit snooze 10 times every morning? Would they scroll endlessly through social media to avoid discomfort? Would they gossip, complain, or waste hours comparing their life to others? Or would they wake with purpose, protect their peace, and speak with intention? Would they let small challenges derail their entire day? Or would they pause, breathe, respond wisely, and move forward with grace? When you move like your future self is watching, you become painfully aware of the gap between how you want to be seen and how you actually behave. And in that awareness is the invitation to grow. Your future self doesn't need you to be perfect. They don't expect you to have it all figured out. But they do need you to start showing up, not just occasionally, not just when it's convenient, but every day in the quiet choices that no one applauds. Because those are the choices that matter most. Those are the choices that stack up into integrity, discipline, and identity. That's how you earn the right to become the person you admire. Not through wishful thinking, but through aligned action repeated over time. When you live with this mindset, my future self is watching me, you start to hold yourself to a higher level of self-respect. You begin to walk more intentionally. You sit differently. You speak with more care. You listen more fully. You become more present, more grounded, more honest. You begin to move not from impulse, but from awareness. And that awareness becomes your new power, because you're no longer just reacting to life, you're directing it. This is not about pretending or performing. It's not about putting on a mask or faking confidence. It's about stepping into your truth even before you fully feel it. It's about practicing alignment so consistently that it becomes natural. You start lifting your head when it would have dropped. You keep your word when breaking it would be easier. You move your body when you'd rather stay still. You speak your truth when silence would be more comfortable. These are not massive public victories, but they are private revolutions. And those revolutions are what change everything. Your future self will thank you for every time you moved when it was hard, for every time you chose discipline over desire, for every time you walked away from what no longer served you, for every time you spoke with honesty, even if your voice trembled. They will thank you for every quiet act of courage, every silent refusal to stay stuck, every forward step you took when fear told you to turn back. Because those moments built them. Your future self is not formed in some future moment of breakthrough. They are being shaped right now by the way you move through your ordinary life. So the next time you're tempted to give up, to delay, to shrink, or to escape, pause. Imagine that version of you who has already overcome this, who has already endured, who is living in peace, confidence, and strength. And realize that they are watching you, not to judge you, but to guide you. They are silently urging you forward. Because they exist, they are real, and they are depending on you to reach them. Start walking with purpose, even when you feel lost. Start training your posture, even when no one's watching. Start speaking like someone who believes in their message. Start treating your life like it matters, because it does. The way you move shapes what you become. Movement is not just physical, it's spiritual, mental, emotional. It tells the universe who you are preparing to be. So walk like your future self is listening. Speak like your future self is paying attention. Choose like your future self is writing everything down. Because the truth is, they are. Chapter 9. Act until it becomes who you are. There is a truth that most people never come to accept, because accepting it means giving up the fantasy of instant transformation. The truth is this: no matter how much you wish for change, no matter how inspired you are in the moment, no matter how powerful your dreams may feel, you will never become the person you want to be until your actions force you to. You don't think your way into a new identity. You act your way into it, repeatedly, relentlessly, until the old you is no longer relevant and the new you isn't something you're trying to reach. It's simply who you are. At first, change feels like fiction. When you start waking up early, exercising, speaking differently, thinking more intentionally, being more consistent, you may feel like a stranger to yourself. You'll question, is this really me? You'll feel the awkward weight of unfamiliar habits pressing against your old instincts. That tension, that resistance, isn't a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you are in transition. You are quite literally moving between identities. And like any transformation, it's uncomfortable at first. But this is exactly where most people quit. They start something new, but because it doesn't feel natural yet, They assume it isn't working, so they stop. And they return to the version of themselves that feels safe, known, predictable. But the people who truly become the version of themselves they admire most, the disciplined, confident, courageous version, they keep going. They keep acting in alignment with the person they want to be, even when it feels like pretending, even when there's no evidence it's working, even when their environment hasn't caught up, because they understand that identity is not a switch you flip, it's a sculpture you carve, and you don't become someone new by waiting. You become someone new by acting as if, until the gap between your behavior and your belief disappears. This process isn't easy. It's not supposed to be. You are quite literally rewiring your brain. Your neural pathways, built from years of old habits, old thoughts, and old fears, don't vanish overnight. They need to be overridden, deliberately, intentionally, and repeatedly. And that repetition only comes through action, not through more vision boards, not through passive learning, but through embodied effort. Through showing up every single day like the person you want to become is already living inside of you, and your job is to give them space to breathe. Eventually, something begins to shift. The actions that once felt like effort start to feel like rhythm. The habits that once felt forced start to feel familiar. The self-talk that once felt awkward becomes automatic. You begin to forget that you're trying to be someone new, because the old you doesn't fit anymore. It's like shedding an outdated costume. At some point you look in the mirror and realize that you no longer have to fake it. You are it. You have become the person you were once only trying to act like. And that moment is worth every ounce of the discomfort it took to get there. But it only comes to those who act long enough. It comes to those who act when they're inspired, and more importantly, when they're not. It comes to those who stay consistent even when results are invisible. It comes to those who understand that becoming is not about how you feel in the moment. It's about what you commit to in the long term, and that's where most people misunderstand transformation. They think it's about waiting to feel like the person they want to be, but it's the reverse. It's about moving like that person until your feelings adjust to follow your actions. Think of it this way. When you act like a confident person every day, holding your posture, speaking clearly, facing discomfort, you slowly begin to become confident. When you act like a disciplined person every day, showing up on time, keeping promises, staying consistent, you begin to see yourself as disciplined. And once your identity changes, your behavior no longer requires as much force. What used to feel like a mountain becomes your new baseline. You've raised your floor, your standard has evolved, and you no longer have to keep proving your worth to yourself. You trust it. But getting to this place takes grit. It takes awareness. It takes deciding every single day, today, I choose to act like the person I am becoming. Not just when it's convenient, not just when it's visible to others, but even when it's boring, even when it's frustrating, even when it's lonely, especially then. Because in those quiet, difficult moments, when no one is watching and everything inside you says, just take the easy way, that is where the real transformation happens. That is where you cast the votes for the version of yourself you've promised to become. Each time you act with integrity, even when it's hard, you vote for your future self. Each time you stick to the plan when distraction calls, you vote for your highest self. Each time you respond with clarity when your emotions want to react, you vote for your evolved self. And over time, those votes begin to outweigh the identity of who you used to be. They build something new, something real, something solid. That's how change works. It's not dramatic, it's cumulative. So don't obsess over how far you have left to go. Don't waste energy wondering if it's working. Just keep acting, keep stepping, keep doing the small things that reflect the person you want to be. Because eventually, that person will not just appear, they will emerge from you. Not as a costume, not as a performance, but as your new default, as your natural way of being. You won't have to say, I'm trying to be confident. You will be. You won't have to say, "I'm working on being consistent." You will be, because it will no longer be something you're chasing. It will be who you are. Act until it becomes real. Act until the mirror confirms what your soul already knows. Act until your old habits feel like a betrayal of who you are now. Act until people around you say, "You've changed," and you smile because you know they're right. This is how transformation happens, not in the moments when it's easy, but in the moments when you keep acting even though it still feels hard. Your future self isn't waiting to arrive someday. They are watching now, and every step you take, every action you repeat, every choice you reinforce is building the identity you will live in tomorrow. So act today like it's already true, and keep acting until it is. Chapter 10. Make the present a training ground for your future. Every single moment of your life, every obstacle, every ordinary day, every unnoticed hour, is either something you try to survive or something you use to sharpen yourself for who you are becoming. Most people drift through the present as if it's just a delay before the real thing begins. They fantasize about a better life, a stronger version of themselves, a future filled with purpose and power, but they completely overlook the sacred opportunity sitting in front of them. The present moment is not a placeholder. It's preparation. It is the silent gym where your mindset is forged. It is the classroom where your character is tested. It is the battlefield where your resilience is built. We often waste the present because it doesn't feel significant. It doesn't feel urgent or glamorous. We tell ourselves that we'll start taking life seriously when things get more important, when the big opportunity comes, when we get promoted, when the relationship arrives, when the stage is bigger, when the spotlight is brighter. But that's the trap. Because if you can't master the present, if you can't train here, where it's quiet, unrecognized, and often dull, you'll collapse under the weight of the future you say you want. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your preparation. And preparation happens in the present. Right now, your environment might not reflect the greatness inside of you. Maybe your job is unfulfilling. Maybe your relationships don't challenge you. Maybe your days feel repetitive, uneventful, almost invisible. And because of that, it's easy to convince yourself that you're just stuck in a waiting room, that your real life hasn't started yet. But let me tell you something, your future self is not waiting for your circumstances to change. They are waiting for you to change how you see your circumstances, because the conditions don't matter nearly as much as your conditioning. And conditioning begins by treating the present moment like it's sacred, like it's your training ground. Start acting like today matters, because it does. The way you respond to the challenges of this hour is sculpting your ability to handle the bigger challenges of tomorrow. The way you carry yourself in the small things is setting the foundation for how you'll handle the big things. The discipline you apply when no one's watching becomes the discipline that carries you when the pressure is on. You're not just going through the motions. You're sharpening the muscles of consistency, integrity, focus, and resilience. Every act of effort, no matter how small, is a deposit into the bank of your future identity. When you treat the present like it doesn't count, you lose the most valuable asset you have, momentum. Because momentum is not built in dramatic wins. It's built in the repeated, often invisible choices you make when life is unremarkable. It's how you speak when no one's listening. It's how you train when no one's cheering. It's how you show up when there's no reward waiting at the end of the day. This is the proving ground, not for the world, but for yourself. And if you fail to show up here, you'll never have the strength to show up when the moment gets bigger. The present is not a pause. It's not a distraction from the life you're meant to live. It is the life you're meant to live. And when you fully embrace that, when you stop trying to fast forward through these moments and instead decide to use them as a crucible for your future, you become unstoppable. You realize that you don't need a new opportunity to begin. You don't need a fresh start. You just need to treat the moment in front of you like it is the opportunity, because it is. Train now, not later. Speak with purpose now, not when you have a bigger platform. Choose excellence now, not when someone finally recognizes you. Live with intention now, not when the stakes are higher. If you can't do it now, you won't do it later. Later is a lie we tell ourselves to justify delay. Later is where dreams go to die. And the only way to make sure your vision becomes reality is to stop postponing your power and start embodying it here and now. This is how greatness is built. Not in a moment of applause, but in years of unnoticed work. Not in perfect conditions, but in chaotic ones. Not when you feel inspired, but when you're tired, distracted, and tempted to take the easy path. But you don't. That is training. That is identity in motion. That is self-respect becoming discipline. And that is the only way to close the gap between the life you have and the life you say you want. So look around at your present life. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? What pressure, frustration, or delay am I facing right now that could become a lesson in patience, strength, or clarity if I stopped resisting and started training? How could this so-called boring day become the exact practice ground for the emotional intelligence, consistency, and self-leadership I'll need in the future I keep praying for? The world is watching, yes, but more importantly, you are watching. Your future self is watching. And every time you rise in the present, every time you move with strength, clarity, and excellence, even when the situation doesn't deserve it, you become that future self just a little more. So stop waiting for a better chapter. Start mastering the one you're in. Because when you treat the present like a test, you train your mind to become unshakable. And when life finally hands you the dream, you'll be ready, not because you hoped for it, but because you trained for it. The training ground is open. Your time is now. Chapter 11. Let every step reflect who you're becoming. There is a quiet power in living deliberately. Not just in the big defining moments when the world is watching, but in the small, seemingly insignificant steps you take every day. The way you walk into a room, the way you respond to frustration, the way you make your bed, the way you listen instead of speaking, the way you honor your commitments, even when no one will notice if you don't. These tiny acts, repeated consistently, don't just fill your days. They shape your identity, they reveal your trajectory, and most importantly, they reflect the person you're becoming. Far too often, we underestimate the significance of our smallest actions. We separate our present behaviors from the future life we want to live. We believe that once we arrive at success, confidence, peace, or purpose, then we will automatically start living with intention. Then we will become focused. Then we'll finally start showing up with discipline, excellence, and grace. But life doesn't work in reverse. You don't reach your destination and then become worthy of it. You become worthy of it by the way you walk the path. And every step, every habit, every behavior either reinforces your future self or pulls you further from it. You must begin to treat every action as a reflection of who you are becoming. Not just the obvious actions like what time you wake up or how often you train, but the subtle ones. How you speak to strangers, how you talk to yourself, how you behave when you're irritated, when you're behind schedule, when things don't go your way. Do you shrink? Do you lash out? Do you compromise your standards in the name of convenience? Or do you pause, breathe, and respond like someone who has trained their emotions? Someone who sees every interaction, every test, every decision as an opportunity to practice alignment. Because that's what life really is. It's not a performance to be perfected, it's a daily practice ground. Every moment is a brushstroke in the painting of your character. And if you truly believe in the person you're becoming, the future self you've envisioned, then every step you take today should begin to mirror their energy. You don't have to get it perfect, but you must make it consistent. Not because you're pretending, but because you're rehearsing. You are conditioning your mind, your body, and your spirit to match the standard of the person you are growing into. Ask yourself, if my future self, the person I deeply respect, was given this exact day, how would they move through it? How would they carry themselves in this same body, in this same environment, with this same schedule? What would they say no to? What would they stop tolerating? How would they treat others? What kind of decisions would they make in this very hour? Then match it, not halfway, fully. Let your current self begin to move as if your future has already arrived, because that's how you bring it closer. You walk toward it with alignment until one day you realize that you are no longer trying to become them. You already are. This requires more than discipline. It requires awareness. You have to pay attention, not just to your goals, but to your tendencies. How often do you go through your day on autopilot? How many decisions do you make simply out of habit, without questioning whether those habits belong to the future you? You need to interrupt the unconscious drift. Slow down, examine, realign. It's not about being perfect. It's about being awake. Awake enough to notice when your behavior doesn't match your vision, and courageous enough to correct it, not tomorrow, not later, but now. And yes, this work is hard. It takes energy to be this intentional. It's far easier to move through life reacting, adjusting, repeating. But ease is the enemy of elevation. If you truly want to become someone exceptional, you cannot afford to let your life be dictated by comfort. You must make the decision again and again to move with purpose, even when it's exhausting, even when no one claps, even when no one understands what you're doing. Because this is the secret. Every step you take today becomes your new baseline. The way you show up when no one's watching becomes your reputation when everyone is. You build quiet integrity, silent strength, and inner momentum, not by waiting for transformation to arrive, but by walking like it's already here. You stop chasing your potential, and you start expressing it. You stop hoping for discipline, and you start embodying it. And through that embodiment, you earn your evolution. Eventually, something begins to shift. The small steps that once felt forced begin to feel natural. The posture you once had to practice becomes your default. The clarity you used to reach for now lives in your tone, your gaze, your stride. You no longer think about every decision. You simply move as someone who has already made the ultimate decision. I will never again betray the person I am becoming. That decision becomes your compass, and every step becomes your proof. And yes, you will stumble. You will fall short, you will forget. But each time you do, you have the power to realign, to return, to remember what you're here to do and who you are becoming. Because your identity isn't built through perfection. It's built through your commitment to return to alignment every time you drift. So from this moment on, move like it matters. Move like someone who is deeply aware that every step is either casting a vote for your past or your future. Walk like someone who knows they are being sculpted by their choices. Let your tone reflect calm authority. Let your schedule reflect priorities, not distractions. Let your eyes reflect presence. Let your posture reflect strength. Let your habits reflect self-respect. Not for the world to see, but because it's who you are now. This is how transformation becomes reality, not by grand gestures, but by ordinary steps done with extraordinary intention. Make every step count. Make every move sacred. Not because you need to prove anything, but because you're done playing small. You're done delaying your power. You're done waiting for someday. Let your future be proud of the way you walked through today. And let today be the day you finally stop moving like who you were and start moving like who you are meant to be. Chapter 12. Make the world adjust to your energy. There comes a point in your journey where you must stop bending who you are to fit into the small spaces the world offers you. You must stop shrinking your voice to avoid making others uncomfortable. Stop lowering your energy to match the mood of those who refuse to rise. Stop softening your truth just to be accepted in rooms that were never built for your growth. Because you were not created to fit in. You were created to stand rooted in your power. And when you do, when you begin to walk with the grounded conviction of someone who knows exactly who they are, the world around you will feel that shift, and it will adjust. But that adjustment doesn't happen by force. It happens through presence, through consistency, through the quiet, steady energy of someone who no longer seeks validation because they have already validated themselves. You see, most people spend their entire lives trying to fit into structures that were designed to keep them small. They study the rules, the expectations, the opinions, hoping that if they behave the right way, speak the right way, dress the right way, they'll finally be accepted. But acceptance at the cost of your essence is not success, it's surrender. And eventually, you forget who you really are underneath all the roles you've learned to play. You don't owe the world your performance. You owe yourself your authenticity. And the more you begin to move from a place of self-awareness and self-respect, the more the external world begins to shift around you. Not instantly, not without resistance, but steadily. Because the world may not always give you what you want, but it will reflect what you demand through your energy. Energy is not just a feeling, it's a language, a frequency, a signal that tells people how to treat you, how to value you, and how to show up around you. If you move through life unsure, apologetic, and afraid to take up space, the world will confirm that posture. But if you walk with certainty, peace, and quiet power, the world begins to make room. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You are not saying you are better than others. You are saying you refuse to be anything less than your whole self. And that decision creates boundaries. Not walls, but boundaries that protect your peace, your purpose, your vision. You no longer entertain energy that drains you. You no longer chase approval that weakens you. You no longer compromise your values just to be liked. Because your path is too important and your future is too sacred to be constantly negotiated by external noise. Making the world adjust to your energy starts with your posture, not just physical posture, but your energetic one. Do you walk into rooms like someone who needs permission to belong, or like someone who brings value by simply being? Do you speak with hesitation or with clarity? Do you lead your own energy, or do you absorb the emotions of others and let them control you? Learning to carry your own weather, your own emotional atmosphere, is a form of power most people never develop. But when you do, you become unshakable. The chaos around you no longer enters you. The moods of others no longer dictate your presence. You move with grounded stillness, and people feel it, even if they don't understand it. And yes, it can be lonely at first, when you begin to rise, to walk differently, to protect your energy, to speak truthfully and live deliberately. You will lose people. Some will fall away naturally. Others will try to pull you back into your old patterns, not because they are bad, but because your growth threatens their comfort. But let them go. Don't dim your light to preserve old versions of connection. Let your energy elevate your circle. Let your presence call others to rise. You're not here to babysit anyone's ego. You're here to become. The world will always try to mold you into something easier to understand, easier to label, easier to control. But when you stand in your truth, unapologetic, unshaken, unwavering, you become something rare, something magnetic. You no longer knock on closed doors asking to be let in. You build your own house, rooted in peace, and the right people find you there, not because you begged them to, but because your energy drew them in. That is how real influence is built. Not through chasing, but through becoming. Start being intentional with what you allow in your space, the music you listen to, the conversations you engage in, the tone you use when you speak to yourself, the environments you stay in, the energy you tolerate. All of it is shaping your field. All of it is sending a message to the world. This is my standard. This is my boundary. This is my vibration. Adjust accordingly. And this doesn't mean you become rigid or emotionally distant. In fact, the opposite is true. When you live in alignment with your higher self, you become more open, more compassionate, more grounded. But you stop confusing kindness with compliance. You stop mistaking softness for submission. You learn how to be warm and powerful, still and fierce, quiet and untouchable. You lead with your spirit, not your fear. And people begin to follow, not because you ask them to, but because your energy invites them into something stronger, something deeper, something real. Make no mistake, your energy is your responsibility. You train it like a muscle. You protect it like a treasure. You express it like a message. And when it is strong, steady, and clear, the world responds. Opportunities open. Conversations shift. People respect you without knowing why. It's not magic, it's alignment. So from this moment forward, stop asking the world to see you. See yourself. Stop waiting for the world to change. Change the way you carry yourself within it. Walk into every room as if your energy is the strongest message you'll ever speak. Stand in your presence like it's a declaration of who you are becoming. Because it is. And as you continue to rise, continue to evolve, continue to walk this path, one day you'll look around and realize that you no longer adjust your energy for the world. The world has started adjusting to you. You are no longer becoming, you are already becoming. By now, you've walked through the fire of transformation. You've read the words, felt the pull, and perhaps even seen glimpses of the person you were always meant to be. And now, it's time to stop telling yourself that your future self is far away. Because the truth, the real, raw, powerful truth, is that your future self has already started to awaken within you. Every page you've absorbed, every sentence that made you pause, every chapter that made your heart beat a little faster, was not just information, it was activation. You are no longer just someone with potential. You are someone in motion, someone on a mission, someone who is no longer hypnotized by comfort or trapped by hesitation. You've begun to move differently, think differently, breathe differently. You've started listening to the voice within you that says, enough pretending, enough waiting, enough shrinking. It's time. Time to live in alignment with the vision you've been carrying quietly for years. Time to walk like your future is already watching, because it is, and it has been all along. There is something sacred about choosing to evolve when nothing around you is forcing you to. That kind of transformation is not reactive, it's sovereign. You are not changing because the world told you to. You are changing because you've remembered who you are, and more importantly, you've remembered who you are not. You are not the sum of your past mistakes. You are not the old labels, the old stories, the old environments that tried to define you. You are not your fears, your doubts, your temporary fatigue. You are the quiet warrior beneath it all, slowly rising. You are the fire that refused to go out, the discipline that kept showing up, the voice inside that never stopped whispering, "You were made for more." And now you've stopped whispering back. Now you're responding with action, with posture, with movement, with a presence that no longer asks the world for permission. You've stopped chasing and started becoming. This journey doesn't end here. You will still have moments of doubt. You will still face resistance. You will still be tested by life. But the difference is this: you no longer need ideal conditions to stay committed. You've outgrown the need for constant motivation. You now understand that growth is not an emotion, it's a decision. And you are someone who decides. You are someone who shows up. You are someone who keeps walking, even when the road is steep, even when no one is watching, even when the old you is calling you back into comfort. Because you've tasted something greater now. You've touched the edges of your higher self, and you're not turning back. The world may not notice right away. The applause may be slow, the recognition may be quiet, but none of that matters anymore, because you're no longer moving for validation. You're moving because it's who you are now. You're moving like someone who honors their word, someone who lives in alignment, someone who understands that every step taken in silence still echoes in eternity. You don't need to become anyone else. You just need to become more fully yourself. The version of you that existed before fear, before failure, before you started doubting your worth. That version of you is still alive, and now it's growing stronger. So walk forward, not with desperation, but with devotion. Speak like someone whose words build futures. Move like someone whose habits leave footprints for others to follow. Think like someone who already knows where they're going, and live like someone who has already arrived internally, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. This is no longer just about goals. It's about identity. And from this moment forward, your identity is no longer a question. It's a commitment. You are no longer waiting to become. You are already becoming. Now live like it.